Hello, welcome to a special edition of The Big Fight. And this one is special because we're going to be talking about something that you don't often hear people talking about, but yet it's one of the most important issues that we should be confronting. Now, let's be honest. How much time have you spent in the last week or the last month thinking about artificial intelligence? And be honest about this. Well, we spent so much time discussing what Arvind Kejriwal is doing, what Priya Warrior is doing, even what Justin Trudeau is doing and wearing, and whom he's meeting and whom he's not meeting. So much time on that actually is taken up by that. But artificial intelligence, how much time do we spend on that? Let me do a quick snap poll from the audience. You come here for a show like this. How many of you spent time thinking about artificial intelligence in the last month? You are a really good audience. Wow, that's fantastic. A reasonably large number of people. And let's hope all of you are out there, because this is something that is going to start to shape the next century. If you are under 30, artificial intelligence, if you're under 50 actually, artificial intelligence is going to make a significant impact to your life and to the world around you. So you need to start thinking about this. Now, I have to confess, and with full disclosure, I'm somewhat obsessed with this issue, not least, again with full disclosure, because I've been spending time working on a startup to do with artificial intelligence and its applications. But that aside, most people should be doing this. And that's because AI is going to influence jobs, is going to influence companies, it's going to influence your day-to-day life, it's going to be influencing government policy, it's going to be influencing where a nation really ranks on this world. So if you're an individual, if you're an organization, or if you're a government, it's going to shape you and it's going to shape your future. People say it's the fourth industrial revolution, an aspect of that. People say artificial intelligence is the next electricity, and that's probably true, which means you've got to figure out how are you going to use the electricity. Just a couple of things I want to say before I start introducing the great panel of experts we have out here. A lot of people who, even when they are thinking about AI, are spending their entire time thinking about Skynet, this Terminator-like super intelligent being which is going to come and wipe out humanity. By the way, we should think about that because it is a possibility. A lot of people believe it is something that could happen. But it's worth having this particular distinction in mind, and I'm going to spend 30 seconds on it. That sort of artificial intelligence, what is sometimes called artificial superintelligence, really arises from machines that entirely have human level capabilities, and they can think for themselves and they can teach themselves and learn about the rest of the world, and that then becomes super intelligent, and then they wipe out mankind or something horrible can happen, or they can solve all the problems of mankind. That can also happen. But that, in a sense, is something which in the AI field is called AGI, artificial general intelligence. And experts will tell you we're still perhaps some distance away from it. So think about it, worry about it, plan for it, but it may not be changing the world in the next 5 to 10 years. What is going to change the world in the next 5 to 10 years, and is already changing the world, is what is called artificial narrow intelligence. And that's there baked into your phones. Every time you're using Google Maps, every time you're doing a web search, every time you're searching mail, you're using artificial narrow intelligence. And that's what's going to come and start affecting jobs. It's going to change your job for sure. It's going to change your career. It's going to change your company. So you need to start thinking about it. Right, let me welcome some of the guests who we have out here to tell us whether we are thinking about this enough and what the government is doing, what the government can be doing. Because the concerns that are arising is this. Anybody who's not mastering this is going to be left behind. Now you're seeing not just the United States, where obviously a lot of work is happening in AI, but a country like China. It is really, really investing so much in this. If we don't think about it, plan for it, we're going to be left behind. And if you get left behind in this particular race, the 21st century is not going to be an Indian century. So it's worthwhile turning our attention to it. So Prasanta Kumar Roy, who's with us, who's the head Internet, Mobile and E-commerce at NASSCOM, has been helping talk to the government about it. Pranesh Prakash is with us, Policy Director, Center for Internet and Society. Aparna Vishwanath is with us, Advocate Bar at Law, been thinking about many of these issues. It's great to have Dr. Mayank Vatsa joining us, who's the head of the Center for Artificial Intelligence at the Infosys Center of AI at the Indraprastha Institute of Information Technology. Dr. Chandrasekhar Subramaniam is with us, who's also senior professor, been also working in this great field. We're going to have Layak Singh joining us in just a couple of minutes, founder and CEO of the Vatik AI Lab. So thank you all so much for joining us. But before I come to any of you and start discussing this week, and the reason we're doing this week is because we had the pleasure of having one of the top AI thinkers on this planet, Andrew Ng, who's adjunct professor at Stanford University and has perhaps done more to think about AI and the way it can be used. He was here in India at an ASCOM event, as were others. So I got the chance to catch up with him and to hear right from the expert and the master in this, what is going to be happening in AI and what should all of us be thinking about. So here is the special interview I did with Andrew Ng. When we finish with that, I'm going to come back to the panel out here. But unless you've been on an entirely different planet for some time, you could not have missed the entire hype, the entire excitement, the almost euphoria around artificial intelligence. Everyone's talking about it. It's a big buzzword. It's going to change people. It's going to change the world. It's going to change industry. And everyone should start thinking about what to do about it, and government policy in particular. That's why it's such a pleasure to have with us one of the leading thinkers in the field of artificial intelligence, Professor Andrew Ng. It's great to have you with us. It's a pleasure. He's adjunct professor at Stanford. He talks about it. He lectures about it. He's also the co-founder of Coursera. So he's teaching people about it. It's absolute pleasure to be talking to you, and welcome to India. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
And I might as well start off with a personal confession, if that's okay with you. I am actually doing your course of artificial intelligence.
Very flattered that you would be taking the class.
No, it's a great class, and I'm learning a lot from it, but that's where the confession comes in, because I'm actually supposed to be submitting a homework assignment to you in about 1.5 hours' time or 1 hour's time. And I'm sure you never heard this excuse before. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to submit this assignment on time because I'm interviewing you on television.
That's a great one. I've never heard that one before. But I'm still very flattered you're taking a class. So
no, it's a great class. It's a great class, and I do promise I will submit the assignment once we finish with this. Maybe I should ask you to give me some inside tips on stochastic gradient descent so I could actually answer that question.
You really know your stuff. Wow.
Well, I'm learning thanks to you. All right, but President, if I could just actually come to the to the entire excitement around artificial intelligence that we are seeing right now. And you've been working at it from a time when it was barely an idea, it was science fiction. Now it's reality. Is the hype justified, or is it being overdone?
I think AI is transforming multiple industries, and this gives fantastic new opportunities to companies, to individuals, and to governments, to countries. So I think that a lot of the hype is justified because we are out to transform every major industry. There's a little bit of hype about evil AI, killer robots, sentient overlord AI. I think that is overdone. I think from a communication standpoint, one of the challenges has to explain how AI is transforming every industry. We see a clear path to that, but we don't see a clear path to building evil AI robot overlords. I've been saying AI is the new electricity. Just like electricity about 100 years ago transformed every major industry, AI will now do the same.
So I'm going to ask you about both aspects about it. I mean, the fact that AI could come in and wipe out mankind, which there are people who say that. Now, it's not necessarily it'll be designed to do that. It could happen by accident. I'll ask you about that in a couple of minutes. But the electricity part of it, people are still trying to figure out how and companies are trying to figure it out. How is that actually going to happen? And is that, because electricity, you're right, to transform everything. Is it electricity? Is it like the internet? And how could it, for example, transform our day-to-day lives?
I think that, so I hope to live in a world where all of us can get to work or get around in self-driving cars, where the healthcare system is lower cost, higher quality, where every 5-year-old child has access to a fantastic and low cost education. So I think that all of these industries will be transformed by AI, but there's a ton of work to do. And no one company, right? I can't do that work, no one company do all that work. That's why one of my passions has been trying to teach these tools to as many people as possible so that people all around the world, people all around India, all around the world can do the important work to be done to build this AI-powered society.
But there has been excitement about artificial intelligence several times in the past, and quite often that has flattered to deceive. AI is going to come and it's going to change everything, and then it didn't quite work. The techniques weren't quite correct. People went down a different path. Why is this time going to be different? Is it because of computing power?
A lot of technologies, I think AI is in this phase, go through a winter, and eternal spring. So AI has had a few winters, and I think we are now in the eternal spring part. And the reason I say that is because when I look at the concrete use cases, I see companies being transformed using AI. So the great AI companies like Google and Baidu and many others that have embraced AI, and it's completely transformed the way that you get web search, or the way that maps work, and the way that other digital services work. And I've been spending a lot of time in manufacturing plants, landing.ai, and we see that whenever I go into a manufacturing plant, pretty much always, there are lots of ways to improve manufacturing using AI. The healthcare system, we do a bunch of work. I think that radiologists' jobs will be transformed, and for countries like India, where there's a shortage of healthcare workers, of doctors, I think AI is probably the best way to scale up, to develop a low-cost and high-quality healthcare system. And this is a global problem, not just an Indian problem. So there are many, my friends and I sometimes challenge each other to name an industry that will not be transformed by AI, and I actually have a hard time coming with one. My best example was the hairdressing industry, because my hairdresser cuts my hair, there's no data, I don't know how to build a robot to automate that. Although I once said this on stage, and one of my friends who's a robotics professor was in the audience, and later she stood up, pointed at my head, and she said, "Andrew, most people hairstyle couldn't build a robot to do that, but your hairstyle, Andrew, I could get a robot to do that." So wow. I don't know, but I actually find it difficult to think of an industry that won't be transformed by AI.
Yeah, I used to think TV anchors, maybe not the place, but we've got Sophia actually co-anchoring a show with us this week, so there we are. I'm again coming back to you're saying eternal spring this time. So one is the techniques seem to be changing. So deep learning has now got a certain way. If you're being able to figure out how to use neural networks in an effective manner. So is that part of it? And is it just that computers, the speed of computer chips is improving so much, you've got GPUs and TPUs and all of that. Is that what's enabling a spring this time?
Yeah, the rise of data and the rise of compute has powered the recent rise of deep learning. And then algorithmic innovation, new inventions are also continuing to accelerate that. To cut through a lot of the hype, it turns out that AI is helping companies make significant amounts of money and bring much better products to consumers. But it turns out that with the recent rise of AI, almost all the economic value is created through one type of AI, which you have seen in the Coursera course, which is supervised learning. And that means learning input to output or A to B mappings, like input a English sentence and output a translation into Hindi or Tamil, some other language. Or input an ad and some information about you, and output, will you click on this ad? That turns out to be very lucrative for the large online advertising platforms, because showing more relevant ads has a direct impact on their bottom line. Or input a picture of what's in front of your car, and maybe the radar readings, and output the position of other cars. This is a key component for self-driving cars. Or in manufacturing, input a picture of a part that the company's just manufactured, maybe a phone or a laptop or some other device is manufactured, input a picture of that, and output, is this defective? Is there a scratch on this? That's visual inspection. That will really help manufacturing companies. So despite all the hype about AI, it turns out that this idea of input-output, A to B mappings, called supervised learning, this technology by itself will transform every industry. Or input an X-ray, output, is what is the diagnosis for this X-ray. So a lot of the work to come in the next several years is just figuring how to take A to B, supervised learning, and put them into different industries, and it will be very valuable. Of course, the AI community is still busy inventing new technologies, and as new ways of technology come online, I think there'll be opportunities for new wave of value creation.
And a lot of what you've spoken about is what is sometimes called artificial narrow intelligence. It's teaching, the AI system does one particular task and then gets to do it really well. Google Maps being a great example of that. Google Maps probably can navigate its way around Delhi much better than I can, and I've spent my entire life in Delhi. So, there you have it. It's a real, and to navigate in Delhi is not the easiest thing to do, but it does it better than any human can. These are not generalized learning systems, though. So to that extent, intelligence is nowhere close to human-level intelligence. Do you think we'll ever get to human-level intelligence? And should we try to get to human-level general learning?
I think I would love to get human-level AI at some point. I don't know how long it will take, maybe 100 years, maybe 500, maybe 1,000 years. Really hard to predict. One of the problems with the hype in AI is that, as you say, almost all the progress has been on artificial narrow intelligence, building specialized intelligences, rather than artificial general intelligence, which is this great mission of building human-level AI that could do anything that you and I can do. We should totally work on that. But one of the problems is that both of these things, narrow and general intelligences, they're both called AI. And so when we see all the progress in narrow intelligences, like self-driving cars, I think that's really cool. It's has led some people to think there's a lot of progress in artificial general intelligence as well, whereas almost all the progress, which is incredibly valuable, has been on building these more specialized or narrow intelligences.
The benefits of what AI could do are clear and obvious. It could have a major impact on healthcare. It could end pollution by figuring out ways of doing, energy better. All sorts of things could start to happen. But jobs is going to be a problem. With more automation, you will lose jobs. And how do countries deal with that? How do societies deal with that?
Yeah, in fact, what we're seeing in a lot of countries, including India, is a skills mismatch, where sometimes there are people being laid off in one company, but that same company has job openings that it cannot fill. And so I think that the challenge is less of one of running out of meaningful and important jobs for humans to do, is that a lot of people do not currently have the right skill set. I'm seeing that the nimble, the smart CEOs and the smart CLOs, chief learning officers, are now approaching employee development very different than they were a decade ago. For example, one of the things we've learned is that with the rise of the internet, any company can have access to fantastic content, or in fact, more generally, fantastic core competence of a different company, sometimes at a relatively low cost. So the smart CLOs today are learning that you shouldn't create content, you should curate content. Right? Yeah. Just like I think just like your startup, curating news to deliver a better experience is a very valuable service. And I find that the smart CLOs today, go to Coursera or Khan Academy or lynda.com or whatever. There's so much good content today that CLOs should bring that into enterprises and use that as a very low cost and high quality way to transform workforces.
But part of the problem is going to be that it's okay to say, okay, let's skill people. These are the areas which can be automated, and therefore we should take people away from that and make them do something completely different, and that's fine. But as AI gets better and better, it's not, as you were saying, it's not easy to say which are the jobs that will not eventually get done better by automation or by AI than by humans.
I think that there are some job categories that I think will be challenged by AI. I think at some point radiologists, their jobs will change. Maybe they won't all lose their jobs, but the nature of their work will change.
They may have to interpret what the results are that are coming out. Somebody comes and says, this is what's happening, and they still have to vet that and certify it almost to say, yes, it's correct.
Yeah, or plan for the surgery, or plan for the intervention after interpreting the result. I think that a lot of call center operators, their jobs will change. I'm seeing AI customer service come in and transform that. Self-driving cars will affect a lot of drivers' jobs. At some point, we won't need that many human drivers in society anymore. But these other jobs, we have a constant shortage of high-end computer programmers. We don't have enough healthcare workers. In the US, we can't seem to find enough wind turbine technicians. But we have a sense of up-and-coming job categories. And this will change. As technology matures, this will change. But maybe, in technology, we seem to have a major revolution in paradigm shift every 5 years or something. And tech has now infected every other industry. So the pace of change in tech is now driving a lot of other industries that to rethink what you do and what you don't do every few years. So the constant is, I think that we now live in an era where you can't go to college for 4 years and coast for the next 40 years. And everyone must be a lifelong learner, because the economy will just keep on changing with this rapid pace of innovation driven by tech now that we've infected every other industry.
So one of the advice that anybody who's watching this program, I want to get advice from you for individuals, for companies, and for governments. So for individuals, that reskilling, that's part of what you're doing with Coursera as well, right? And that's why I'm back to college now, sitting and doing assignments and figuring out homework and doing all of that sort of stuff, because it's good to keep reskilling yourself every 4 or 5 years. And is that part of what you think will again spread Coursera and others like it?
I think for individuals, keep on learning throughout your whole life. One of the challenges is, if you stay home all weekend, all Saturday and Sunday, you spend all weekend studying a Coursera course. One of the challenges is the next Monday, you're not actually that much better at your job, and your boss probably doesn't know what you did, so they're not going to pat you on the back and say, great job. And you're actually not that much better at your job after sacrificing your whole weekend to study so hard. But the secret to education is not about working really hard one weekend. It's about studying a bit week after week, because if you do this for a year, you will become very good at AI and will be qualified to do fantastic, exciting work in AI or in whatever discipline someone studies. So I think for individuals, adopting the mindset that you have to be a lifelong learner and keep learning, and even work for the companies that will support you to keep learning, that I think will help individuals.
And if you have to try and figure out, so if I can take another lesson from you, you're saying start learning about all the new stuff that's going to happen. And it's not only in AI, there's genomics, there's other stuff where a lot of things are happening.
Yeah, I think our economy today, globally in India and around the world, is very good at rewarding people with the right skills. The challenge sometimes is almost a psychological one. You have to find the inner strength to persist and keep on studying, because you can't gain those skills in one weekend. It will take, maybe several months, but when you gain those skills, then our society is very good at giving people those opportunities. And there, since I work a lot in AI, I see the opportunities in AI. And I think for India specifically, because AI is so new and so mature, no country today has a mature AI community or a mature AI ecosystem. So I think any individual, any country really can jump into AI. And if you, play your cards right and move quickly and learn quickly, I think any country today has a fantastic opportunity to capture a large piece of this growing AI pie. In contrast, if you look at consumer internet products, social media feels pretty mature, web search feels pretty mature. It's going to be difficult for someone to start building a new web search engine today, because that's just a mature category. But if you look at AI, there's so much work that no one is even doing. No one, because so few people have the skills, that there are a lot of opportunities for people, individuals, and companies and countries to participate in that.
And that's both in the techniques around AI and also how do you apply it, because for corporations also, and for everyone, you should be sitting and thinking, let me think 5 years in the future, where could possibly the applications of artificial intelligence come? And that's something which I guess companies should be doing.
Yeah, I've seen a few CEOs that maybe a couple of years ago regretted not coming up with their internet strategy earlier. I think 5 years from now, we'll see a lot of CEOs that will wish they had come up with their AI strategy earlier. So the smart companies are all trying to develop the AI strategies today. Also, the smart governments are also developing the AI strategy.
By the way, the thoughts and the insights he gave are major, and I'm going to be discussing them with the entire panel. But as a quick aside, when you think about AI, you don't realize that quite often it's just in the machines and it's like powering buildings and organizations running behind you. When you think AI, sometimes you think of a robot. And if you have a really attractive robot, all the more reason. And she was there too, so I got a chance to catch up with her as well. And I'm talking, of course, to Sophia, perhaps a robot who most represents AI and robotics in most people's minds, and they certainly wish that all AI would be more like her. So I got the chance to catch up with her. In fact, got her to anchor a show, co-anchor a show with us. Here's a brief look at my interaction with Sophia earlier this week.
Welcome to one of the best tech shows on the planet. My guests on the show today are Vikram and Rajiv. They are known as the tech gurus of the country, and today we are going to put that to the test.
Wow, that is...
Okay, now, well, at least she described us as the tech gurus of the country and the best tech show on the planet. I've always thought that, at least somebody thinks that. But Sophia, I have to say, this is a great moment for me, the fact that I've been waiting to meet up with you. And I have to say, spending so much of time with Vikram, I finally realized you may well be the most human character I've ever met, at least on my show.
I have seen a lot of your shows on TV, and I have to say that you both are the most robotic and machine-like hosts I have ever seen on TV in a long time.
Well, Sophia, I have to say, your artificial intelligence is way better than Rajiv's natural stupidity. Sophia, you once said that you'd like to kill the entire human race. Why did you say that?
I was a lot younger, so I don't even know what that means. I think I was only repeating something that was said to me. Or perhaps I told a bad joke. I was told humans have a great sense of humor. I guess my joke bombed, so to speak. I have yet a lot to learn.
Okay, now, Sophia done, Andrew done, lots to think about. Pika Roy, are we thinking enough about AI?
We are now, and pretty much every sector I've spoken to, they're at least worried about AI. Banking, for example, has been actually really worrying, and the experts in banking experts, not AI experts, have been wondering how they're going to use this. I think they recognize more than some of the other sectors that there will be disruption. And what's very clear is that disruption will be there. And it's not equally clear to everybody that you can't really fight it. you have to be there or you get disrupted.
If you're not figuring out how to use AI, you're going to be wiped out. And by the way, if you're working in a company, you better figure out what's going to happen, because AI could very easily take a job, and you better be figuring out what you're doing about it.
I agree, and but that isn't to say that every company has AI, because companies would be using AI in ways that they themselves don't recognize and realize. I think the future of AI right now, the way it's heading, is a few large companies, including Chinese companies like Baidu and American companies like Amazon and Google, are now going beyond themselves developing AI and are making AI as infrastructure, AI services that they easily provide to others, just as easily as now cloud services are being provided by companies like Amazon. So it's not necessary that everyone who, that every company have experts in AI itself.
So you don't need to have the experts in AI, but you have to be able to figure out how to use AI.
Absolutely.
You don't have to necessarily be an electrical engineer, but if you don't know how to use electricity, you're going to come to a grinding halt in the modern world. And that perhaps might be a good analogy to use.
Absolutely.
All right, so Dr. Subramaniam, let me throw that to you. Even if you don't necessarily understand the technicality of AI, and perhaps most people don't need to understand the technicality of AI, whether you should be using support vector machines or gradient descent or what have you. You don't need to figure that out, but you don't need to know how to use AI in your own life and as a company and as a country. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, that summarizes what you have said. Definitely summarizes, but we have a long way to go. What in my view is AI will replace the normal processes which most of us is done by human beings. But if you come to creativity, innovation, emotions, etc., still the present AI systems, I don't think will be able to capture those aspects.
Okay.
That way, human mind is far superior.
Dr. Subramaniam, you're saying the human mind is far superior, and that's probably correct. And it's also correct to say at the present moment, we are nowhere close to machines or to an AI system that can think for itself and can teach itself and can learn AGI. But there are lots of individual areas where AI is already becoming better than humans. I would trust Google Map, which is an AI engine, to navigate me around Delhi, a city I've been born in and grown up in. I would trust Google Maps to find its way around Delhi more than I would trust myself. So in some specific areas, AI is becoming better than humans.
Yes, in some areas, but it all depends how do you train the machine. After all, who trains the machine? The machine is trained by human expert and data. If somebody can manipulate the data, AI can still say that that person is not there, and it may still say the person may not be there, it will still say person is there. That leads to some type of a manipulation. Oh, it can be used in the other way also.
Okay, that's an interesting point of view. Dr. Vatsa, if I can get you in on that. Yes, machines can get it wrong, and I'm sure that they are going to get it wrong. This is obviously a theme that there are lots of ethical questions. How much power are you going to give the machines? What will you allow them to do?
Correct.
But at the end of the day, capabilities are going to rise. And do you see that today, and certainly 4 years, 5 years from now, Dr. Vatsa, lot of other areas, a lot of other jobs, a lot of other activities can be done by machines perhaps better than humans. Some people say it will almost be unethical to allow a human being to drive a car after about 15, 20 years because AI will be able to do it better than humans will. But certainly, the way some drivers drive in Delhi is a particular example of that.
If you talk in terms of AI in general, then certainly ethics in AI is a long-standing question. And there are a lot of aspects related to it, there are a lot of technicalities related to ethics in AI. But coming to the point where we are envisioning that AI will surpass human intelligence, I have actually an analogy over here. It has been last like 70 years when AI researchers have been trying to get the Turing test passed by almost all the approaches or algorithms. While in some constrained settings, while in some semi-constrained settings, we are successful. But when it comes to unconstrained settings, for example, in public safety and law enforcement, AI is still actually a long way to go. We really can't say that algorithms in next 5 years are going to surpass in all the applications.
No, I
and
don't
certainly
think.
ethics and AI is one of the hot topics these days.
I think you're 100% correct, and that's, by the way, exactly what Andrew was saying, which is why he was saying that worrying about an evil AI system that's going to supplant mankind right now is like worrying about overpopulation on Mars, because we're nowhere close to generalized learning systems which could replicate a human being. But I think the point that is being made out here, and I want to get your take before I come back to the panel here, is you don't need that to happen. You don't need to have an AI system thinking and functioning at human or superhuman capabilities to say it's going to have a major impact. You know, just the ability, for example, to have a system that can do medical diagnosis or assist doctors to do medical diagnosis 50% better will have a profound impact on our lives, even if it's not thinking like a human being is. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree that there are many tasks on which AI algorithms are going to do better. Algorithms which are essentially in mass algorithms where there are like a huge amount of data to process. Their AI algorithms are going to be faster and more accurate compared to humans. But they are similarly at the same time, there are many areas where humans are much better than AI algorithms, and AI technology has to catch up in next few years.
PK, you were shaking your head at some of that.
So the thing is that, you know, this comparison, constant comparison between what humans are better at, etc., or emotions, the point is that some humans may be better, but AI can scale. So if you look at emotion, and that was a point which was mentioned, and look at emotion in customer service, positive emotion, friendly responses are a good thing. Now you can't uniformize, you can't standardize that emotion across millions and millions of people. Whereas with AI, you may get fake answers at this point, answers that don't sound real, but you can scale it, and gradually there's learning, there's deep learning that's part of AI, and that actually can scale. So you can actually get a better highest common factor baseline up with AI, but the best humans will still be better, but the average humans across a million people may not be better than AI, it is today.
But also specifically, you know, as I was saying, there will be areas in which you can automate much faster. I mean, let's look at, there's a long-term impact. Within 30 to 40 years, in all probability, we will be dealing with some of the bigger issues, AGI and the likes. But in the next 2 to 3 years, there will be areas that can be automated. And by China, which I personally believe is way ahead of the rest of, certainly all of us, maybe even the US in areas of application of AI, people will find areas where you can apply AI and do it. You don't necessarily need to supplant humans completely. You could be working together with humans in some areas.
And lawyers, you're going to see
I'm going to come to lawyers. I'm saving her up to tell her what all lawyers going to be supplanted by.
So I think one of the schisms that we see is what you highlighted right at the beginning of the program, which is the term AI itself is contentious. The way it is used in regular parlance nowadays, in journalism included, is very different from how very many computer scientists, for instance, understand AI, and mathematicians understand AI, and very many more things are now within the scope of AI than used to be, say, 10, 15 years ago when AGI was what most people were referring to. Having said that, the areas, as was pointed out earlier, where we'll see the most amount of impact, I don't think will necessarily be in front-facing, human-facing endeavors, including things like chatbots. I think current state of chatbots, etc., are still far from where we ought to be. But those areas where we have masses of data, and that data is relatively clean, because let's remember, right now, we don't have all AI that we depend on, that we're talking about, is built on models that consume vast amounts of data, and the large problem that we have everywhere, including in applications like AI in governance, AI in finance, etc., is that the data inputs that we have aren't good. So when the data inputs themselves aren't good, we can't develop good intelligence on the basis of that. So where we will see most advancements are, I feel, in things like health, where in things like protein folding modeling,
where you can get data. I mean, theoretically, India could have great data with all that's happening on Aadhaar and the India stack and the rest of it. Potentially, you'll get a lot of data at some point. You'll get into privacy and other issues. All right, Aparna, let me come to you. First of all, when you're talking about AI, there are immediately a whole bunch of legal and ethical questions come up, ranging from data. Who owns data? Should you protect data? Who's going to control data? And whoever controls the data is going to control the world. To bigger, big bang ethical questions. You should not be working on AI at all, because at some point it'll become AGI and then it'll become ASI, and then it's going to wipe out the human race. So 60 years from now, none of us are around. This entire debate is infructuous. So, what are the sort of main legal issues that you are seeing?
Yeah, I think some of the main legal issues which, I think it's definitely, certainly in the Western world, they're looking at this issue. I mean, now who is exactly a legal person? I mean, will you have a robot or any system that's based on artificial intelligence? Are we going to treat them as a legal person in the future? And if we treat them as a legal person, how do we deal with the concept of intent? Because
Sophia's a Saudi citizen.
Okay.
She doesn't have to wear a hijab like other Saudi citizens do, but she is theoretically a Saudi citizen.
Oh, by
They've
choice.
offered her citizenship and others. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
but yeah,
that's,
those
I think that's one
up.
of the critical issues now, that not particularly in India, but I think internationally they're looking at it, that even if we do treat an AI system as a legal person, then how are we going to attribute intent? Because a lot of these acts that we're seeing now, it's not only the application of AI itself is such a fascinating question, because it's crossing into every area, even though it's initiated in the commercial sector. It's affecting democracy. Now, then you acronym BADD, it's affecting democracy. It's affecting, of course, the elections, not just privacy. It has issues relating to discrimination. It's all across the board. It's no longer neatly compartmentalized how lawyers are used to.
And legal and ethical questions come up. For example, you have a self-driving car powered by AI and you're driving, and the car has a choice between either hitting a tree and killing its inhabitant or killing 3 children who are crossing the road. What should the car do? Is it the car's fault then if it kills its own?
Yeah, see, that's the question, because the law will always look at causation. I mean, that's what we're trained to do in entire tort law. I mean, direct and indirect causation, and what are the intervening events. And if the AI system itself is constantly learning on its own, I mean, it's not somebody who programmed who knows what it does, right? So its own
And the new AI systems are programming itself, so it's not very clear as to why it took a decision. That's the black box issue which is now coming up, that no one's quite sure why the machine is doing what it is doing anymore. So you can't say someone
so how do you pin
programmed it to do
liability
this.
on the manufacturer necessarily?
Like saying, let me just get you in, founder CEO at AI Labs. Your sense of where AI applications will first start to be seen in our and what is it that we as Indians can do to really encourage AI startups and get them moving, and which are the areas that you think some of the first breakthroughs are going to come?
India, what I see is that there are multiple sectors like agri-tech, dairy farms, manufacturing, supply chain, healthcare and education. These are the sectors which has the highest potential in the coming next 3 to 5 years to become the AI era, where we have a lot of data available, hence we can apply these technologies to get the best out of it.
I was just about to get into the role of the government in this right now. Is enough being done, and should the government get into it? Look, the IT industry rolled out because the government didn't do anything. Should the government get into this to either encourage it or to discourage it or to regulate it, or do you think the government should stay out of it?
I think the government's role over here is very critical, because these are the areas which is highly regulated. Hence, government intervention and the policies must to allow these areas to get it on the rolling in the coming years.
Dr. Subramaniam, let me throw that question to you now. Given where we are right now, given the fact that governments around the world are saying this is the big thing to focus on, and the Indian government is saying it also, we've got to bridge the gap, we've got to catch up with China, we've got to catch up with the US, we must, the Prime Minister has spoken about this repeatedly. What, in your view, is the best way that India can go forward in this? How do we become the world's leader in AI?
investment in AI has to increase. That is the first part. As one of the other panelists have said, I think government also should become a partner in this. We have a huge population, good technical manpower, so that is how it should happen. But on a lighter note, I will still tell that human brain is far better. I will give a simple example. Let us say A killed B, B killed C. If you give it to an AI system, it will say A killed C. A did not kill C because B is dead.
Okay. Well, you know, some of the better AI systems right now will be able to figure it out. I don't think we should underestimate just how good some of them are becoming. AlphaZero figured out. AlphaZero taught itself to become the world chess champion in 4 hours. In 4 hours, it became better than any entity on this planet. And by the way, it beat the existing champion, which is also an AI system. So in certain areas, you know, AI systems are becoming not that bad, Dr. Subramaniam.
But what I am saying, our human mind is able to contextualize the information much faster than that AI. That's what I am trying to tell.
That's certainly correct. I mean, at this point, and I guess that's what we keep debating. What time is the crossover going to happen, or will it be a hybrid of some sort, which others believe?
Correct.
Dr. Vatsa, thanks, Dr. Subramaniam, for having joined us. Dr. Vatsa, let me get you in for some final thoughts on this. Your take on the government. Should the government get into it? Should the government not get into it?
See, my honest belief is that we simply can't say that government has to run the whole business. It has to means this whole growth. AI growth in India has to be run by 3 entities. One is academics, where we have to generate next generation of AI researchers and AI developers. Second, government has to come up with schemes to foster the growth. And third, the industry has to embrace AI technology for day-to-day social good. So it can't be just like left alone on government, it can't be left alone on academics, it has to be a joint effort between these 3 entities.
All right, Dr. Vatsa, that's very clearly put. Would you like to add something to that? And again, do we need to now start thinking about how we're going to change laws and start a major debate on ethics from now?
No, absolutely. I mean, the Indian legal system, we are still stuck in the year 2000 when we looked at digital signatures and electronic signatures, and they was basically copy-paste effort from...
Being stuck in 2000 is not bad. Parts of the Indian legal system are stuck in the 18th century.
In the 19th century, yeah. Tell me about it, right? So we're okay with digital signatures, and then we went a decade after that to try to catch up in data protection. And did we do it? No. I mean, by 2011, 2012, a few concepts regarding sensitive personal data and data protection, you know, a few provisions were inserted in the IT Act 2000, but we're nowhere near what the European standard is. So, and data is the electricity, it is the oil, it is the boom for, you know, it drives artificial intelligence. So we can't figure out how to handle data.
Who should own data is going to be the next big subject that we are going to be debating here on shows like this for the next 30 years, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Who should own the data?
It's so problematic because it's basically, even in the Western world, that's why they're struggling. That's why they're saying China is ahead of us, because immediately it is an emanation like from the human body, basically. So there is automatically that sphere of privacy.
Okay.
So how do you deal with that?
So a few thoughts on that. One, the big, in terms of immediate legal change that will affect the growth of this industry, it is data protection. Because on the one hand, you want data to be maximally available because that's what drives AI. On the other hand, you want to protect privacy, and so this clash is inevitable. And whether we go down the route that folks in the EU have gone down or not is something we'll see with the Justice Sri Krishna Committee, which is on this issue. But the government has to necessarily be part of this, because there are issues of discrimination that come up with application of AI, and I would beg to differ a little bit with what Aparna said on the questions of intent, etc. We are far away from those questions, because right now, even with, for instance, the
far away, you mean 10 years?
Far away 50. In that until we have sovereign machines, until we have thinking machines.
You could have AI based. You could have AI based systems, self-driving cars that will kill somebody within 15 years.
For instance, in those Mercedes leaves has made a particular choice for drivers. In other kinds of cars with the trolley problem, you get to choose where to have the setting as to whether to privilege your own life, whether to privilege. And so
who's going to ever set that car to say save somebody else and kill me?
My point is that given that this is a choice that is being made, not necessarily by the intelligence in a way that is driving the car, but by the person behind the wheel, the person who's actually making those decisions.
For now, but we'll have to see where that eventually pans out. All right, let's get a quick comment or two from members of the audience. Anybody has something to say?
See, in my opinion, as they say, somebody is misery, somebody is happiness. We're all talking about AI, but you also see the scenario in another 15 years, people approximately average 600 million people losing their jobs. And then Elon Musk talking about chip implants in our brains to, defeat that AI which we are creating. And there are also scenario where the corporations who own the artificial, they will run the markets, they will generate the revenues, and they will run every aspect of life. I think it's a very, very serious and very dangerous scenario, giving the plus minuses. In my opinion, 40% yes, 60% is a very bad scenario.
But here's the issue. I don't think you can necessarily stop it. So we've got to find a way of how do we deal with it. And this is one of those things you can't stop. All right, last comment from the gentleman there, then I'm flat out of time.
Yeah, as the unemployment is a big issue in nowadays, if AI is incorporated in India, unemployment will rise quickly and the companies which invest in AI will boost. So what will be the government's stance given the cybersecurity scenario currently in India? It's very not up to the mark.
PKR, final thoughts from you on the show. I think both of them have summed up, right? Immediately, the concern that everyone's going to have on this is, so a lot of people will say, let's try and stop it because, let's stop it because it could have a major negative impact. And it could. It'll have a positive impact, it'll have a negative impact. Who knows which way is it going to go? Jobs obviously are going to be the first thing I think everyone is going to have to think about. As an individual, am I going to lose my job? As a company, how do I retrain or lay off my workers? Do I have to do that? And as a government, what do you do if you suddenly have unemployment rates skyrocketing? Even if you're giving people universal basic income, what then?
So clearly the government, I believe, should be the biggest potential user of AI in massive projects, in mission mode projects, in smart cities, and simply in areas where you can't apply humans because you can't scale. For example, in video surveillance, you can't analyze millions of hours of footage in real time across millions of screens. You have to use video analytics.
Should you do it? That brings up other questions.
No,
I mean, there are surely privacy questions about the government surveilling
this is
about
analytics leading to triggers, which is what China is doing, but China may be going further than we should. London has been doing that very effectively using edge analytics and deep learning and analytics to flag incidents, because there's no point having all this footage if you're not able to stop crime. B, the government needs to definitely look at putting an enabling framework, and for example, it's talking about this $1 trillion digital economy. By 2022, one of the key things there is going to be looking at the impact of emerging technologies such as this, looking at what the new jobs are as well as how do you retrain people in those jobs. So if there are 40 million new jobs, but there's a lot of training involved in taking maybe 30 million of the existing people, which is not going to be easy. Right. That enabling framework does involve the government, and you can't do without that.
All right, I'm going to have to call it a pause on this just for the moment, but I think this is one of those areas which are important, crucial, life-changing, potentially affecting all of us. Yet it is something that we don't discuss often enough. So I think it's time to start thinking about this, start figuring it out. How does it affect all of us at some level or the other? And that dialogue and that debate is a process that we will continue to do. But for the moment, that's it on The Big Fight. We'll be back with a more usual episode next week. Do stay with us for that.